John Lewis was only 23 years old when, in late August of 1963, he spoke on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial at the March on Washington. He was 25 when he was beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama. Congressman Lewis lived to see another movement in the streets of America more than a half-century later. Jon Meacham is a Pulitzer Prize-winning historian and the author of an upcoming book about Lewis called His Truth is Marching On: John Lewis and the Power of Hope. John, good morning. Good to see you, my friend.
Thank you,
been
Willie.
Listening to you over the last couple of days, been reading what you're writing, and there is this amazing through line in John Lewis's life. His great-grandfather was a slave. He obviously, from a very young age, participated in the civil rights movement and did, as I mentioned, live to see the Black Lives Matter movement right now. His life really, in many ways, John, is the story of America.
It's the story of America at its best, and a story of an America that always has to contend with its worst forces. And to me, the remarkable thing about John Robert Lewis is how clearly he embodied, how forcefully he embodied the Christian gospel. He was on that bridge, he was on those buses, he was in the streets, he was in the Congress, because he believed in the dictates and the implications of the Sermon on the Mount. He believed that we had to love one another as we love ourselves. And he took that theological idea and brought it straight to the American political and cultural battles that continue to unfold today.
As we talk about John Lewis, John, as this healer, we were talking to Chuck a minute ago about his being the conscience of Congress. It's easy to forget that back in 1963, for example, he was considered a radical even by many of the members of the civil rights movement. In fact, his speech at the March on Washington had to be toned down a bit. Could you talk about the role he played in those early days of the civil rights movement?
He was the radical. He was the young guy who might go off script. And so at the March on Washington, when he was making the case for how important it was for segregation to end, for America to live up to the words that it said it believed in, the Kennedy administration had stationed two people inside the memorial ready to cut the mic. If John Lewis went too far. And one of them had an album of Mahalia Jackson singing "He's Got the Whole World in His Hands," and they were going to blast that through the speakers to shut him down. So I think to some people, you can already feel it happening. John Lewis can seem like this distant figure, somehow part of, say, the past experience, part of an iconography of reform and power. He, to his dying day, as you just mentioned, he believed that he had to do everything he could to bring the force of love and justice to a world that was fallen and sinful.
So, yeah, I know you talked to John Lewis a couple of weeks ago for the last time as you're writing this book that's coming out in a couple of months, John. What were his final hopes? What were his final dreams? What was his final message for this country?
He said that he felt restless. Think about that for a second. You're John Lewis. You have helped change the arc of a powerful nation, the most powerful empire since Rome. You have achieved all of this, and he said he felt restless because he wanted to do more. He wanted to do more. And the last words he said to me were, "Keep the faith, keep the faith."
We will take that on a Sunday morning. Jon Meacham, thank you so much. John's upcoming book on John Lewis is called His Truth is Marching On. John, great to see you. Thank you.